welcome back to Behind the Joystick. My name is Cordy, and I'm here today with Henry. How are you today?
I am doing well. Very happy to be here.
Sweet. So, for people who don't know too much about you, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So, my name is Aaron Johnston. I currently am the director of esports at Baker College in Michigan. I've been in the esports space for several years now. Started as a student and now working full time. Definitely a very, very fun place to be. Keeps you busy, but
Right.
absolutely, yeah. Just looking to my best to try and impact the lives of my students and hopefully grow with the space as it's still very, very, very new. But just glad to be at the maybe first couple steps of where it can be one day.
That's awesome. And so, starting in esports, we'll go ahead and kick it off with that. Where did that career start off with? Working with programs at Clark and now at Baker.
So I think it's a very similar story to what I think many people have of I just grew up playing games. It was always something that I enjoyed doing. I love playing so many different games. And I was always, I would say, maybe better than average. Wasn't something that I ever had any like, professional aspirations for. Who
Mhm.
wouldn't want to go pro, right?
Oh, yeah.
But my parents always told me, hey, make sure that you are doing well in school so you can go to college, get a degree. And so when I had went off to college, I went to Butler in Indiana. I had met a really good group of friends, and one of those friends actually had told us about an opportunity for an esports club. There's a at my time as a freshman, a senior had been trying to get this going, work with a professor there, and finally had like first call out meeting of hey, anyone interested in esports, come by. And my roommate actually almost was a professional, so
Really?
we both went together.
Mhm.
That's kind of how my I guess story gets started. Is ever since then I was involved in the creation and growth of what Butler became and is today with esports. Um, really found my love for what I wanted to do because I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I like being very creative, and I think the variety of esports is a lot of fun just with building. So that's kind of what I've been doing is just built something as a student, then got my first job at Clark University in Iowa and built that program. And then here I'm basically doing the very, very similar thing of building our varsity program right now.
That's awesome. So, at the Baker University, what projects or really standout moments that pushed you through this career?
Yeah, I think there's been definitely a few different ones, and it's all been in different points since
Mhm.
when I had first started at Clark. It was my just like first, I think, true experience as a leader, as a coach, because as a student, we had a just collectively run club. So it's basically me and all my friends,
Right.
and it was very very fortunate that we all very much cared and we were all very very much passionate.
Mhm.
So it was very, very cool what we were able to do. I was like, wow, this is great. And I always tell myself it would have been awesome to have like a coach or someone who was like helping me through and being able to like encourage something because I think that just really allows for so much. So I
Right.
really wasn't sure what I wanted to do after college. Applied on a whim for the job at Clark, and basically a week after I had applied, they had offered me. So wasn't
That's
sure if I was actually
awesome.
ready. It was a very, very just like funny. Oh, a week later, I have a full time job, and let's go for it.
How long have you
Um,
been with at Clark?
so I was at Clark for 3 years,
3 years.
and then I've been
Okay.
working here at Baker now for almost 4 months. So very, very new.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
But a big kind of, I guess, appreciation that I have so far is how much I've been able to learn because
Right.
it was very, very challenging. Um, I think I know esports very, very well. I've just been in
Mhm.
the space. I like to just learn things, funnily enough. Um, and it's just been cool to get just such a wide variety of knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, but I've never truly gotten a full experience in being a coach, being able to manage emotions, work with players,
Mhm.
handle conflict, how to accomplish a variety of different goals and try to align people on the same page.
Right.
So really, really learned a lot through how to grow a program, how to grow a winning program, how to recruit players. That was a totally new experience for me. How do you try to convince someone to come into Iowa, right?
Mm, yeah,
Not the
right.
most illustrious place to be. We didn't have significant scholarship at that time, so students
Mhm.
were paying a decent amount of money.
Oh, yeah.
But I somehow made it work. I don't really know how. Um, so I think I really appreciated the challenge of how much better it made me.
Right.
It was still very, very difficult. I still struggled at a lot of points. Um, but I think with how things have gone and with how I think fortunate of the situation I am to be able to be at Baker,
Hmm.
it just feels like every week, every month just gets better. Where at Clark, it was just getting harder and harder and harder. I
Right.
think it was good though again, but now I get to basically do what I love every single day, work with some amazing students because there is such a significant support and investment not only in our esports program but in me,
Mhm.
and that just I think is a little different from still having I think an amazing support as your first job out of college. I don't think I could have
Right.
really gotten that much better of a position, but it feels like I've just reached a new tier, a new step, and
Right.
it feels like the ceiling that I might have been trying to break through, I don't even know where it is now.
That's
Um,
good.
so it's it's just very exciting.
Could you tell us more about Baker's University, that the esports programs that you're in right now, since that one's now your next chapter with them? What programs and like how's been that time?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
at Baker, my main responsibility is our varsity team. This is basically a 1-year-old program. There was a few club teams last year. Was our first, or I should say, Baker's first starting to getting involved in esports because
Hmm.
Michigan as a state very very competitive. There's some of the best programs in the nation. You've got Northwood. There is Michigan State. That's just all their investment along with University of Michigan. And then
Yeah.
there's a ton of different programs that are very, very good. It's probably, I would say it might be the best state in the country for just the amount of teams. I drive half an hour in any direction. You pass like 3 or 4 different colleges who have a pretty strong esports program.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so the kind of mentality of starting here is let's start small. Let's just make sure we have something that is good that we can be known for. We don't do too much at once, right? If, especially in my experience, there's a lot of growing pains. There's a lot of just things you need to know.
Yeah.
And Baker hadn't really seen, I think, the full experience or understanding of what esports really can be. So the intention was let's just have one team. Let's bring in the best players possible. Let's try to build one of the best teams around. So we chose to build a team in Valorant. We've been doing very, very well. I've been very, very fortunate for the team we've been able to put together.
It's
And I
good.
think we're going to have a very, very great first year, first season. We're already doing significantly well. I think we're at the 85+% win rate. We've got like
Wow.
almost 20. We only got that lost 3 times, won more than 20. But we've beaten some very, very good teams and done some very, very cool things. That's the main thing is then now that we have this really strong team, how can we grow our brand, right? We're a very new esports program where our college isn't very well known for just being basically only having esports. We have no other sports. We have no other main, I guess, program besides esports.
Really?
So how can we build that? How can we grow that? How can we also grow to be able to bring in more teams, right? Because obviously year one and year two maybe will just be one team, but I would
Mhm.
love to get a JV team in to get in a second team. Of course, we want to expand to more titles. I think there are so many great games, Rocket League, Overwatch, that would be the next esport to get into.
For sure.
Um, and of course, how can we also differentiate ourselves, right? Not just being one of the best competitive programs, but what else
Right.
can we offer? What else can attract these, really top tier talent that we're seeing? So we're trying to do a bunch of different things, wanting to do like big events, big tournaments. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities for that. But then how can we just maybe build some unique collaborations, right? Maybe get some cool partnerships, get some cool sponsorships,
Yes.
and of course, also make sure we invite our community in, right? How can we get the average Baker student involved, whether it be in like our club, maybe in some of our community events? So it just depends on kind of week of what we're trying to push towards to achieve those different
Mhm.
goals.
Would you say that that would probably be the challenge of the first year, or what would you say is like the biggest challenge out of year one that you are seeing?
I don't know if I have reached a challenge yet
Hmm.
in terms of I would say just the structure of how
Hmm.
Baker works is a little different. I'm used to having one school with one main campus, you're all centralized,
Right.
whereas Baker's actually split between 6 campuses around Michigan.
Wow.
So it's a little different. So I think there's a lot of benefits to that, just because I think we have a really amazing just community that is very connected, even though we
Hmm.
are separate. We also are separate, and so there's a lot of different things that I do with each different campus. Our students, at least on our varsity team, living on campus, are an hour and a half away. So if I
Yeah.
need to do anything with them, it will take me some time to get there. So that's just been a challenge to understand how this new college works, how just their structure is, how I fit into the equation, just because
Right.
I play a much different role. I would say I was much more of a coach, like a
Mhm.
Clark, and I am now really a director, which is what I really wanted.
Right.
So it's just doing my best since it's also still been just 4 months, right? I just moved to Michigan. There's still so much to learn about how the high school scene works, how we also
Right.
really want to build this, right? I think I have ideas on what I want the brand to look like, and I want to look on what I want the program to look like.
Mhm.
Um, but I also it's growing and it's kind of a not so much trial and error, but working this out with every bit of the college together to say, hopefully, I think we've been doing pretty well so far, and I think
For sure.
everything's been solvable. I haven't
Mhm.
really had anything that's really held me up too far, but it's kind of this is good. What's next? What can we kind of push towards? How does this really fit in? How can I convey this, to our administration so it makes sense in their mind, so they can get behind it?
Right.
So I think that's maybe the biggest work in progress. Is just it's ever evolving. I just have to
Mhm.
make sure I do my best to stay on top of course, as well as how the space changes, right? Because the
Yes.
college space changes a little bit. So making sure that just providing the best experience for my students, and then hopefully the students to be.
Right. So you're pretty much setting up like a big foundation part of this with help of others around you to really start Baker's like esports right now, which is pretty cool. And especially since it's all spread out, our foundation is just getting bigger and bigger for you to build up something bigger. But the I guess my next question would be like, how would you balance like, when we're talking about students? How do you go towards the scholastic side and try to bring children from there to like college space? And then how do you also help your students go? You have to keep higher grades so that you can play the game still. Like how does that work, especially from like starting out now?
Sure, I would say it definitely was something that I struggled with
Hmm.
before because it was a situation of, well, do you focus on your current students or the future students? Of course, you can do both. There's a lot of ways in which you can balance that, but
For
there
sure.
is just so much work in esports to where it can be very, very overwhelming. You can get really burnt out, and I definitely was feeling that towards the at least kind of last year, towards the end of the spring semester, this past spring.
Hmm.
So I definitely very much want to make sure that I was in the best position and I was in the best state that I could be, so I could be the best director, the best coach to all of my students. So I think it's just a little bit about making sure you are able to healthily manage, right? What that balance is,
For
because
sure.
I think it's just like any other job, right? You just have responsibilities. You kind of have to make sure that what is the most important today kind of get through what's the most pressing, curate the priority list. And then
Mhm.
this is also just important. Can I maybe wait a couple days? Can I maybe get some help somewhere else? I think I was definitely a lot more, I don't want to say isolated, but I was
Mhm.
definitely more individual on my own at
For
Clark,
sure.
where I think I have a whole college around me really trying to ensure that this program is going to succeed here. Which really makes my job, I think, a lot easier because I can go to different, departments and say, "Hey, I need some help," or "Hey, this is kind of how we function. Can you kind of work with me on maybe building some kind of policy or some kind of process to help?"
For sure.
Since it's so new to everybody. So I think that kind of helps just with that balance.
Mhm.
Also, just think it takes time too. It's not something that can be done. Recruiting students is a long, several month process. It's building relationships, making sure that it is the right fit for them and for you. You don't
Right.
want to bring a student here who wouldn't be happy, who might not, or who might be like stressing about the financial concerns, or maybe just the distance from home. There's a ton of factors. So
For
it's
sure.
really just making sure that try to meet the needs as best as possible. Fortunately, our programs are very, very small, so I think my students are also very, very self-sufficient, which really helps allow me to do all these different things, which I think then
Right.
obviously come back to support them. So I think I've gotten very fortunate and very lucky so far. But my hope is when maybe they get a little more busier, when that kind of workload builds, I'll have just the right people to either go to, or I'll be able to hopefully manage what is most important today, what I can maybe do tomorrow, and then maybe what's not important until next week type thing.
That's awesome. And now you're also part of the NACE program, the Competition Council. I've heard a few people who are a part of this. What is ACE to you, and like how did you get involved?
So NACE is the National Association for Collegiate Esports.
Hmm.
It is basically one of the biggest collegiate organizations in our space. And it is really unique because it is a member organization. So unlike, let's say, a competition, which you just register for,
Mhm.
NACE, you can also, compete with them, but they are a like supportive organization for being able to help growing programs. Obviously, provide opportunities for some of the top programs. There is ways for mentorship. There is different networking opportunities. It's kind of this multifaceted organization, and it's definitely developed and grown over the past few years.
For
So
sure.
they've made some big partnerships. They've worked with some different kinds of organizations. So I would say most people, if they're in the collegiate space, they know about NACE. And so for me, especially when I had first got involved, this is when I was a director and I was looking to find what competitions should my students get involved in, right? What is
Right.
the best ways for my students to get, competitive competition? That's not also, them getting, destroyed every week. So
Right.
NACE had a really, really good divisional split at the time, which I really liked. And obviously, there was a lot of really, really great programs that were part of NACE. So I was like, oh, this definitely seems like a good place to be. There's a lot of colleagues that I had started to meet, or just people who had, just like me, graduated college, started to work at universities that I got some advice from. So I was like, hey, let's compete in NACE. Let's be a member. And also, before I had even gotten hired, Clark, my previous institution, was actually a NACE member. I think we were one of like the first 30 or 40. So it kind of just
Really.
made sense to stay with them.
For
Um,
sure.
so from that point, there was a lot of opportunities to get further involved. Um, I had also, again, made a lot of great connections, got some good mentors who really taught me a lot of really great things. So I was like, I
Mhm.
just want to learn as much as possible. I want to be the best coach I can be. So no better way to do that than to work with the people who I greatly respect. And
Right.
so there were some leadership nominations and things on the table. And I was like, hey, it'd be really cool to just be able to support the space. It would teach me a lot. So I had started to run for the competition council, which basically is the main body that just facilitates NACE's competition. So we vote
Okay.
on rule changes. We see if we need to do structural changes to like schedule or maybe the format of our season. Should we maybe bring a new game in? Should we consider a different maybe divisional split or a different system in which you qualify? There's a lot of different things we talk about. We deal with
For
different
sure.
kinds of conflicts or appeals. There's some kind of team issue in a match. We talk about those different things. So yeah, very, very fortunate to be voted in. And I've been working on the competition council. This will be my third year now. So my last
Wow.
term. So I'm hoping to get reelected at the
Right.
upcoming convention we have this May. But the biggest thing for me was just it's a space of amazing people. I think collegiate is overall just everyone in the esports space is very, very passionate. And there's just, again, very, very many people in NACE that I greatly respect, that I
Mhm.
learn from as much as possible, that make me better. I'll send the messages to a bunch of different people every other day for, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Or what do you think about what you're doing with this? Or what would you recommend for, this situation? Or, hey, I've never experienced this conflict before. Have you ever experienced that? How have you dealt with it?
Right.
So it really, really helps me. I think it's also great to try to also help the space in turn, because NACE is really, really big on trying to just do what's right for the collegiate space. We don't want to be the only kind of opportunity. We don't want to try and take something over. It's just, hey, we want to try to do right by students. We want to try to provide opportunities to schools that need it, support them through what the really unknowns that collegiate is, because it's always changing. There's not one guidebook on how to build a
Right.
program. So it's just, hey, if you need some support, if you need some help, you want to have good competition opportunity, and also just a list of other things. That's what NACE really provides, and that's what I really appreciate.
That's awesome. And so they also help you with Baker. So you at least have like a structure of people that you can still pick brains to help you create Baker. And that's really cool. It feels like it's gonna be like, I don't know, the upcoming rise for esports is to always have just a lending hand. Everyone out here is really with open arms, which is like a really nice thing about all this. What do you think the future of esports would be? Like in the next 5 years? How do you see it, especially in the collegiate space?
There are definitely hopes that I have. I think that we
Mm,
all have for where we want this to be, especially with how even the professional space has changed significantly. We really want collegiate to grow into a true path to pro. While you can totally skip college and
mm,
go professional, you can also be pro in college. Unlike, let's say, traditional sports where you have to go through a college program, maybe even graduate and then get drafted or make a professional team. We kind of want to provide a much more sustainable place for these players who might be competing in a tier two amateur space, might have teams shift and form, or just the kind of system in which exists might fundamentally change, and there's less opportunities. And I think college just provides so much, not only just for that consistency, right? If you
Hmm.
have the same teammates, you have the same kind of support system, you are, working towards a degree, which is a great backup plan. If maybe going
Yes.
pro doesn't work, or maybe it, opens a door somewhere that you might not have realized. I think that's kind of where we want collegiate to be very, very long term. I think it's slowly getting more recognition, especially as the space develops. We get a lot more good players. There's a lot more great opportunities with all these games. A couple years ago, Valorant didn't exist, right? And I
Right.
think Valorant's now one of the biggest college titles, and even in professional. So the opportunities that you can get involved with, the national, multinational, we're seeing these world championships now for college, where it's North America versus Europe, and you can,
Yeah.
these like competitions that are so cool. You can fly your students out to Turkey. You can fly our students out to these in-person competitions. They can win. You can obviously give them a scholarship to be able to afford to go to college. I think
For
that's
sure.
really some of the greatest benefits. So I hope the years go on as the semesters goes on, this gets better for just the like in which communicate. This gets much more efficient. You kind of minimize forfeits. You kind of all those like things of just the experience overall just keeps getting better. We of
Right.
course are able to get these more super unique and like top tier experiences for your students. Um, then you don't really know. The space changes so much, from where it was when I was a student, back in
Oh, for sure.
2017, 2018. I don't think I would have really kind of come as far as it does now, or for me to even be a part of it in the way that I am.
Right.
So that's why I just do my best to try and stay ahead, different things, try and, be at the forefront, because I would love for our program to be one of the best, not just in the state, but also just get that national recognition.
For sure.
So that's kind of what I'm kind of be working towards, and we'll see if there's a big challenge or a big change in the space. But I think college has only gotten more and more. Seeing bigger schools invest, which is of course going to change. So
Hmm.
I would probably expect, we're talking in the next 5 years, we'll see some the true like Division 1 schools getting involved, and how that might change the space. Who knows? Because the small
Right.
schools are really the like best schools.
Mm.
Um, but we'll see once get these enrollment schools involved, and more so.
Absolutely. And to piggyback onto that, you were talking about they can go off and try for pro, and even if that fails, they have their degree as a backup. A good example of this is for you at least. Instead of doing the pro part, you ended up shifting gears still into the esports, but now you're part of like directing. What kind of like do you think the skills or like mindset to at least talk to college students to have them open their minds because I feel like at that age, even for myself, I was like, oh no, I want to go pro like nothing else in college. But like, how do you get someone around that age to go, there's other things and you can still do esports?
It's just awareness, right? I
Yeah.
think it was very similar to me, even how I started my college career. Since I didn't know what I wanted to do, I had no idea,
Hmm.
so I went undecided. And through kind of system at Butler, they had given you just like a wide variety of, hey, here's all the different majors. Have like 4 or 5 of them every week. You can see like outcomes of the major, what you'll be studying, what you might be looking to do down the road. And so that's where I had originally learned about arts administration, which
Hmm.
was my first major, because I had a huge background in the arts. I loved music. I loved dance. I also knew I was not good enough to go pro and kind of even go pro, but try to like, be a professional, actor or singer. But I just loved having that still, my life. So I was like, oh,
For
great.
sure.
I'll work in theaters. I'll work in arts, but in the background, right behind the stage. And I didn't know
Yeah.
about that until I was told. But then going through that, I didn't really like it. And what I kind of found out was, oh, I like kind of like the artistic creation, the building. And so then I switched my major to production at
Hmm.
my junior year. So I was going to try to be like a content creator, be a for a professional team, and in esports. So I
Right.
think it starts with awareness. Of a lot of people don't really know that you can do more than just compete. Be a you can broadcast competitions, you can run events, you can be a team manager, right? You can be a head chef. for a professional team, right? Different ways that you can be a doctor of esports and all these really unique like people are like how to help that or help mitigate some of that stress on the body that has never really been researched. So I think there's a lot more that people are understanding. A lot of colleges are even trying to, recruit for, right? There's social
Right.
media, right? There's a lot of different things you can do with, social media producer for Cloud9, right? Or being able to do this or that. Like a lot of what you can do in the future, you can learn as a student, which I think is really the most amazing thing. Cause that's what I really did is I got
Right.
all this experience being a student. I ran a program, I did social media, I ran events, which then allowed me to be very, very successful in my full time job. So it's just, I want to work in, marketing, or I want to work and, an NFL team. So I'm going to, with our football team on campus, going to help manage them, going to learn a lot there. And that's also what puts you above other people trying to get into the space,
For sure.
once you graduate. So I think it just will take time for a lot of these students to understand. Also, just even know that there's scholarships available for college esports. That's still a growing thing too.
Yes.
Especially even this new area, Detroit, right? I don't know if there's a lot of students who even know because everyone plays video games, right? Everyone knows about video games, and so you might do this, as like a fun thing, right? But they would never think, oh yeah, I can do this in college and get a scholarship. So
Right.
trying to educate those families about, hey, here's how this looks. It's it has a very similar feel to traditional sports. Very structured, it's organized, it's for personal growth and development. Students to mature. So I think we're all doing the good work. I think it will just
Mhm.
take time. That's kind of the first conversation is, hey, how much do you know about esports? Right? Some people know very, very well. Some people don't. So hopefully everyone just has a good understanding of how to, let to somebody and make it make sense.
For
Um,
sure.
I think we're doing good.
Good. And then I guess finally, my last closing question: what would you tell your younger self, post Henry, in esports? Like, what advice would you give him?
I hope, well, I hope, I would think that hopefully my future me would be one that maybe would say something to me today. Because I definitely know that I want to be in esports. I think it's an amazing space. I think I'm very, very happy where I am, but
Mhm.
I'm still very young, right? I have
For
no
sure.
idea what the future is going to hold, even if I'm going to want to stay, be here there was a point in which I was considering totally leaving.
Really.
Um, but I'm glad I didn't. And I'm glad I got this opportunity at Baker because it's totally kind of just um, my motivation for everything and just my passion again. So I'm very, very excited for seeing what I can build,
Mhm.
and for what the future can hold, and hopefully being very, very well known name, at least for our college, for kind of teams that we'll
Sure.
have. Um, but I think for me, maybe if I was talking to myself in college, I would say that keep doing what I'm doing, right? Because it'll work out, right? And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I would want to hear
For
is
sure.
all of my worries in the future, my concerns for maybe what's going on in my personal life, or for the normal things that people have to deal with, the normal stressors, the normal conflict of just, hey, will I know if it's going to work out? Right? Will all be okay, even though maybe the year might suck, or this couple few weeks are going to be super busy, or I don't know if I did good enough, or if I'm doing good enough.
Mhm.
For myself, my students, my boss, my college. I just want someone to tell me, hey, you're doing fine. It'll work out. Just don't overthink it.
Right.
So that's might be what I tell myself. A couple years
That's
ago. Hopefully,
awesome.
that's what my future self would tell me today.
Right. Don't
Um,
overthink it.
yeah, I think so far I've gotten just things to start working out. I guess the work's been paying off, that I've been putting in. So I think been a good sign for me to just be able to just enjoy, because I think esports, like you kind of mentioned, is there's so many people who want to help, who want to collaborate, who just love being in this space,
Mhm.
um, and that just makes me just as much, because I've met some amazing people, made some really, really cool connections, and I'm very much looking forward to more that I might be able to get, and the very, very cool things I'll be able to do, however long that might take.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. Where can people find you?
Sure. So I'm not super active out on many different things. I mean, gamer tag is Sir Aaron, Sir Aaron HJ, and like stuff. I'm also just do things from college. I think I only speak up when I really think I have to. But anything like Baker related, we're just Baker Esports. It's like every single platform. So, like I said, I'm hoping we can be one of the best programs, one of the at least top programs in Michigan. That's number one. we've got some very very big aspirations. I'm definitely very much aspirational in that regard. So hopefully you'll be hearing about us being one of the top Valorant teams, at the end of the year.
Yes,
But
for
thank
sure.
you very very much for the invitation. It was great being able to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll put everything in the descriptions below in case you want to go check them all out. And we'll see you on Friday. Bye, guys. Awesome.